The Galactic Empire was one of the most powerful and far-reaching forces in the galaxy. Stretching across hundreds of star systems, their fleet was unmatched, their military strength overwhelming. They had crushed every species that dared to stand against them, their advanced technology and discipline making them invincible in their eyes. For centuries, they had ruled with a cold and iron fist, and no one had ever challenged them. That was until they discovered Earth. It was an unassuming planet, nestled in a distant corner of the galaxy, a world that seemed primitive and insignificant. The Empire's scouts, who had traveled across the stars to map and conquer new systems, hardly gave it a second thought. To them, Earth was just another insignificant speck in the vastness of space. There was nothing special about it, nothing that could make it stand out from the countless other planets they had visited and conquered. But the Empire's leadership made a critical mistake. They underestimated humanity. The first contact was made when the Empire sent a diplomatic vessel to Earth, hoping to establish their dominance early on. They wanted to make their presence known, to show the humans that they were now part of the Empire's vast territories. The humans, however, had other ideas. A message was sent back to the Empire's fleet. It was simple, direct, and chilling. The message read, "Leave our galaxy, or we will destroy you." At first, the Empire's leaders laughed at the audacity of this tiny species, whose home planet was still in the early stages of technological advancement. They couldn't fathom that these primitive humans would dare issue such a warning. To the Empire, the message was an amusing distraction. They thought it was a bluff, a desperate attempt by a weaker species to appear stronger than it was. The Galactic Empire had never faced any real opposition. They saw themselves as rulers of the galaxy, and no one, certainly not a tiny planet like Earth, could challenge them. The response from the humans was clear and firm. "We warned you to run." But the Empire's arrogance led them to ignore the warning. The Empire's high command had no intention of backing down. They sent their fleets to Earth, confident that their superior numbers and technology would crush any resistance. The Empire's warships, massive and powerful, began their journey to Earth, ready to show this insignificant world who was in charge. The fleet was enormous, consisting of hundreds of ships armed with laser cannons, ion bombs, and shields strong enough to withstand any attack. They were the most advanced warships the galaxy had ever seen. Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans had their own plan. While they were not as technologically advanced as the Empire, the humans were far from helpless. In fact, the people of Earth had been preparing for this moment for generations. They had studied the stars, developed technologies that allowed them to travel vast distances, and built an unbreakable spirit of unity and resolve. The human race had faced countless challenges throughout its history, and each time, they had found a way to overcome. Now, they would face their greatest test. Leaders and military commanders on Earth gathered in secret, knowing that the Empire would soon arrive. They had no illusions about the Empire's strength, but they knew something the Empire didn't. Humans were not like the other species the Empire had conquered. They were resilient, creative, and incredibly determined. And they had one advantage the Empire had not considered. They had a home to defend. While the Empire's fleet traveled toward Earth, humanity prepared for the worst. They knew they were not ready to match the Empire's fleet ship for ship, but they did not need to. They had a different strategy in mind, one that would surprise and confuse their invaders. The humans' warning was not an empty threat. They had developed weapons that could disrupt the Empire's technology. They had spent years studying alien technologies, reverse engineering them, and learning to use them to their advantage. In secret laboratories, they created countermeasures, systems designed to disable the Empire's ships, scramble their weapons, and even turn their own technology against them. As the Empire's fleet neared Earth, the tension on the planet grew. Every human knew that the future of their world was at stake. They were ready to fight, but they hoped, deep down, that the Empire would heed their warning and turn back. They had no desire for war, but they would not let their world fall without a fight. The Empire's fleet arrived, just outside Earth's atmosphere. They were ready to land, to take control of the planet and its people. And they were confident that victory was inevitable. But what they didn't know was that the humans had already prepared. The warning had not been a bluff. As the first wave of Empire ships descended toward Earth, the planet's defenses activated. The humans' countermeasures worked. The Empire's most advanced ships began to malfunction. Their weapon systems locked up. Their communication lines scrambled. What the Empire had thought would be an easy invasion quickly turned into a battle for survival. The humans weren't going to run. They were going to fight. And the Galactic Empire had just made its first big mistake. The Galactic Empire had always been in control, and that control extended to everything in their vast empire, stretching across star systems and planets. They had never been questioned, never faced a challenge they couldn't defeat. But as their fleet approached Earth, something began to stir in the minds of the Empire's leaders. They had never dealt with a species like humanity before. The fleet had arrived in Earth's orbit, and the sight was overwhelming. Massive ships, gleaming with advanced technology, hovered above the planet. The Empire's ships were like nothing Earth had ever seen. Their sheer size and power were enough to send chills down the spine of anyone who looked at them. Yet there was something about this planet that made the Empire uneasy. Despite their technological superiority, there was an unsettling feeling, an unfamiliar tension in the air. On Earth, the leaders of the human world gathered together to discuss what was coming. Military officials, scientists, and strategists stood in darkened rooms, watching the screens that displayed images of the Empire's ships in the sky. The news had spread across the globe. The Empire had arrived. The humans had already shown their cards once. They had warned the Empire, but now the time for warnings had passed. The Empire had ignored them, and the stakes were now higher than ever. Humanity had no choice but to defend their world. While the Empire's fleet prepared to land, the human military was in motion. Their first victory had surprised the invaders, but the humans knew it was only the beginning. They had no delusions about the power of the Empire's technology, but they had something else: ingenuity. They had developed tactics the Empire hadn't even begun to understand. For all its power, the Empire was rigid in its approach to war. Their strategies were based on overwhelming force, on precision strikes, and the use of advanced technology. The humans, however, didn't rely solely on their weapons. They had learned how to fight with their wits, using their environment, their knowledge of terrain, and their ability to adapt quickly to new situations. It was this unpredictability that worried the Empire. In the Empire's command center, the leaders watched Earth closely. They had never seen a species like the humans. Their ships, though inferior to the Empire's, seemed to be everywhere, darting across the sky in unpredictable patterns. Some ships were old, others were newly built, but all had been designed with a single goal in mind: to protect Earth. The Empire's commanders couldn't understand how humans were able to organize such a defense with so little time. They thought the humans were just lucky. It was only a matter of time before the Empire crushed them. Yet, as the days passed, the humans continued to impress their enemies. They were resourceful. They could take an old, outdated ship and make it a deadly weapon. They could take a scrap of metal and turn it into a shield. Their technology, while not as advanced as the Empire's, was versatile and fast. The humans adapted quickly, making improvements on the fly. The Empire's commanders began to feel the first hints of doubt. In the cities on Earth, the people were preparing for the worst. In every corner of the world, citizens were building makeshift defenses, gathering supplies and training for the inevitable. The human spirit was alive with determination. The Empire might have been a vast and powerful force, but the people of Earth had one thing that no empire could ever conquer: their will to survive. Meanwhile, the Empire's generals made their plans. They had heard the reports of the humans' unexpected resistance, but they were confident that it was just a delay, a small obstacle to overcome. The Empire had always won in the end. They had crushed countless species before, and there was no reason to believe this would be any different. But as the days passed, the fleet's commanders began to notice something strange. Earth's atmosphere was alive with energy. A series of unexplained energy spikes seemed to be coming from the planet, sending waves of interference through the Empire's advanced sensors. Something was wrong. Their systems were starting to malfunction, and it wasn't just because of human interference. There was something else at play, something they couldn't explain. On the ground, human scientists and engineers were at work, using their best minds to understand the technology of the Empire. They had reverse-engineered parts of the ships and weapons, learning their secrets. And as they did, they began to develop ways to turn the Empire's technology against them. It wasn't just about defense anymore. The humans were planning to fight back. As the Empire's fleet moved into position for the next phase of their invasion, the humans were already one step ahead. The Empire's military commanders began to realize that Earth was not like the other planets they had conquered. There was something different about these humans. They were unpredictable, resilient, and determined. No matter what the Empire threw at them, the humans would not give up. The calm before the storm was over. The Empire had made a grave mistake, thinking that they could simply crush humanity like they had so many others. They had underestimated the humans' ability to adapt, to fight, and to survive. And soon, they would find out just how wrong they were. The Galactic Empire, despite its vast might, had underestimated Earth in ways they could not have imagined. The first battle, which was meant to be a simple display of power, had turned into a shocking defeat. The Empire's fleet had entered Earth's atmosphere expecting an easy victory, but what they encountered was not the swift surrender they were used to. The humans fought back with a ferocity the Empire had never seen. The Empire's military, accustomed to sweeping through planets and defeating any resistance, could not fathom that Earth's defense would be anything but a minor delay. Their warships, which could easily level entire cities, began to encounter unexpected problems. Earth's airspace was filled with human aircraft that moved in ways no enemy had ever dared. Old fighter jets, once outdated, were now engaging Empire ships in the sky, dodging fire and using their agility to strike from unexpected angles. The humans had prepared for this moment. They had known that they could not compete with the Empire's technology on a direct level, so they had relied on their resourcefulness. Earth's atmosphere, full of turbulence and unpredictable weather patterns, gave the humans a natural advantage. The Empire's advanced sensors struggled to track human movements, while the humans used every advantage their planet offered. In the sky, small but quick human jets darted around the Empire's massive warships. They fired laser cannons and missiles, targeting weak spots in the Empire's ships that they had carefully studied. While the Empire's ships were nearly indestructible, they were not invulnerable. The humans had discovered ways to breach their defenses. Some of the Empire's ships, unable to adapt to Earth's chaotic environment, were damaged in ways that their engineers had never expected. On the ground, humanity's forces were also fighting back. Cities that had once seemed helpless against the overwhelming force of the Empire were now preparing to defend themselves. Soldiers, farmers, and engineers joined forces, using every tool at their disposal to fight off the invaders. Armed with weapons they had quickly adapted or reverse-engineered from the Empire's technology, the humans set up traps and launched surprise attacks. The Empire's forces, used to fighting organized armies, were now facing an enemy that did not fight by the same rules. The humans had turned their homes into fortresses and their cities into battlegrounds. Buildings that had once been peaceful centers of civilization now housed defenses and makeshift weapons. Earth's terrain, from dense forests to towering mountains, provided perfect cover for ambushes. The Empire's soldiers, trained for open battles on predictable terrain, found themselves constantly on edge, unsure of where the next attack would come from. Every time they thought they had gained an advantage, the humans would strike from another direction. The Empire's commanders, initially confident that victory would be theirs, were beginning to question their strategy. They had assumed that Earth's military would be weak, and that any resistance would crumble in the face of their superior technology. But now, they were learning that the humans were not as weak as they thought. Earth was fighting not just with weapons, but with everything it had: its people, its environment, and its relentless spirit. Back on the front lines, human soldiers fought with an intensity that surprised even their own commanders. Each person, whether a soldier or a civilian, understood that the fate of their world was in their hands. The Empire's forces were strong, but the humans were fighting for something far more precious: their homes, their families, and their future. As the battle raged on, the Empire's fleet began to take significant losses. The ships, once invincible, were being damaged by human ingenuity and relentless attacks. The Empire's technology was far advanced, but it wasn't perfect. The humans had found ways to exploit its weaknesses, using tactics and methods the Empire had never expected. One by one, the massive warships fell, damaged beyond repair or forced to retreat. The Empire's soldiers on the ground were bogged down by ambushes and guerrilla warfare, unable to maintain the control they had anticipated. The first battle, which the Empire had expected to be a show of power, turned into a bitter struggle. The humans had proven that they were not a species to be underestimated. They fought back not with the same advanced technology as the Empire, but with something far more dangerous: their will to survive and their refusal to give up. As the day wore on, the Empire began to realize that this would not be an easy conquest. The humans were not like the other species they had conquered. They fought with passion and determination, using every advantage they had. And the Empire's arrogance, thinking they could easily defeat such a primitive species, had led them to underestimate their enemy. The first battle ended with the humans holding their ground. The Empire's fleet, once confident of its victory, was forced to retreat and regroup. The humans had made their point. They would not go down without a fight. The Empire's leaders were left to reconsider their strategy, but one thing was clear: the battle for Earth had only just begun. The Empire had never encountered a species quite like humanity. For centuries, they had swept through galaxy after galaxy, their military unmatched, their tactics flawless. Every planet they conquered fell within days, sometimes hours of their arrival. But Earth was different. Every time they thought they had gained an advantage, humanity surprised them. It was not just their weapons or technology that set them apart, but something deeper, something that the Empire could not understand: the human spirit. As the Empire's forces regrouped, they began to study Earth more closely. They analyzed human behavior, trying to determine what made them so difficult to defeat. What they found was unsettling. The humans were resilient, far more than any species they had encountered before. They didn't fight because they had to. They fought because they wanted to. And that made them dangerous. The human spirit, the drive to protect their home, their families, and their future, was something that no military strategy could account for. The Empire had relied on sheer force and overwhelming numbers, but it soon became clear that this approach would not work against humanity. The humans weren't just defending their planet. They were fighting for their very survival. In the midst of the conflict, the Empire's military leaders began to see something they had never considered: a united human front. Despite their differences, despite the many cultures and nations that made up Earth, humanity had come together in a way that the Empire found remarkable. No longer were they divided by borders or ideologies. They fought as one, as Earth itself, and this unity made them stronger than any weapon the Empire could bring to bear. On the ground, human soldiers fought with a courage that could not be matched. They didn't back down, no matter how overwhelming the odds. Even the youngest soldiers, inexperienced and nervous, stood tall and fought with everything they had. Civilians who had never touched a weapon before joined the ranks, driven by a shared purpose. Teachers, farmers, doctors, all became warriors in defense of their world. They weren't soldiers by training, but they were willing to become anything necessary to protect their homes. It was not just the fighters who were determined. The entire planet stood behind them. In cities, factories, and workshops, people worked tirelessly to produce the tools of war. Engineers, scientists, and inventors collaborated to develop new technologies and repair damaged weapons. What they lacked in resources, they made up for in creativity. The humans had turned their world into a massive machine of resistance, and every person played a role in the fight. The Empire could not understand this. They thought that once they destroyed enough of humanity's infrastructure, the will to fight would crumble. They believed that the human race, left without their cities and their resources, would surrender. But they underestimated something crucial. The human willpower was not dependent on cities or resources. It was dependent on something much stronger: the belief in their own freedom, the desire to protect their future. As the war continued, the humans revealed more of their ingenuity. They had begun to reverse engineer the Empire's technology, using their understanding of alien tech to turn the tide. What was once seen as a disadvantage, their outdated weapons and limited resources, had become their greatest strength. They adapted quickly, improving their tactics and weapons. Human scientists had developed methods to disrupt the Empire's technology, using the very systems that had once been used against them. Their ships, once vulnerable to Empire firepower, were now equipped with shields and weapons capable of piercing the Empire's defenses. Human leaders, both military and civilian, worked together to organize this resistance. They shared information, traded resources, and coordinated attacks. Their unity was something the Empire could not replicate. While the Empire's leadership was distant and disconnected from the common soldier, the humans were united in a common cause. Each victory, no matter how small, became a symbol of hope, and each loss only made them fight harder. The more the Empire pressed, the more the humans pushed back. For every ship destroyed, new ones were built. For every city captured, more defenses were established. The humans did not fear the Empire. They were determined to show them that they would not be easily defeated. And with each passing day, the Empire began to realize that they had made a terrible mistake. The humans were not going to break. They were going to fight until the very end. As the battle raged on, the human resistance grew stronger. The Empire's forces, once so sure of their victory, now found themselves bogged down in a conflict they could not win. The humans had shown them something that no amount of advanced technology or military strength could overcome: the power of the human spirit. And that, more than anything, would be the Empire's downfall. The human spirit was the one thing that no weapon could destroy. It was the one thing the Empire could never have anticipated. And as the humans continued to fight back, they would soon learn just how powerful that spirit could be. The Galactic Empire's fleet was in disarray. For the first time in its long history of conquest, it was facing an enemy it could not predict. The humans were unlike any species they had encountered before. They were not stronger, faster, or technologically superior, but they were relentless, and that was something the Empire's rigid structure could not handle. On Earth, the human resistance was gaining momentum. News of victories, both large and small, spread quickly across the planet. People from every corner of the world united in their shared purpose. Engineers and scientists continued to refine their understanding of the Empire's technology, finding new ways to disrupt and dismantle it. Military leaders worked tirelessly, creating strategies that used humanity's strengths to their advantage. The Empire, with all its advanced technology, was struggling to adapt. Their ships, designed for overwhelming firepower and large-scale invasions, were not equipped to handle the nimble, unpredictable tactics of Earth's defenders. Human pilots, flying modified jets and drones, used the terrain and weather to their advantage. They struck fast and disappeared just as quickly, leaving the Empire scrambling to respond. One of the key turning points came when human scientists discovered a way to hack into the Empire's communication network. It was a risky operation, requiring a small team to infiltrate a damaged Empire ship that had crashed during the initial invasion. The mission was dangerous, but it succeeded. Using the ship's systems, the scientists managed to access the Empire's encrypted channels, learning their strategies and movements. This intelligence gave the humans an edge they desperately needed. Every time the Empire planned an attack, the humans were ready. They ambushed supply lines, sabotaged key installations, and disrupted communication between Empire forces. What the Empire once thought was an easy victory had turned into a nightmare of attrition. In one particularly daring operation, a group of human engineers managed to reverse engineer the Empire's plasma cannons. These powerful weapons, once used against Earth, were now mounted on human warships. The sight of human ships firing the Empire's own weapons back at them sent a clear message. Humanity was not just surviving. They were fighting back. The Empire's generals, once confident in their superiority, began to panic. They were losing resources and morale faster than they could recover. Reports of human victories were spreading not just on Earth, but across the galaxy. Other species under the Empire's control, long oppressed and fearful, began to watch Earth's resistance closely. If humans could stand against the Empire, perhaps they could too. Earth's leaders, realizing the impact their fight was having beyond their own planet, began broadcasting messages of defiance to the galaxy. Using the Empire's communication networks, they sent out signals calling for unity among the oppressed. "Stand with us," the messages said. "Together, we can be free." These broadcasts, carried to faraway star systems, began to spark hope in places the Empire had long dominated. As the humans pushed back, cracks began to form within the Empire's ranks. Some soldiers, frustrated by the endless conflict and inspired by the humans' determination, began to question their orders. A few even defected, bringing with them valuable intelligence and technology. These defections, though small at first, sent shockwaves through the Empire's leadership. The humans' ability to adapt and innovate was proving to be their greatest weapon. In one instance, a team of scientists developed a way to create electromagnetic pulses that disabled the Empire's drones and automated systems. These EMP devices were deployed in key battles, turning the tide in humanity's favor. Without their drones and automated systems, the Empire's forces were vulnerable. On the ground, the resistance continued to grow. Civilians who once hid in fear now took up arms. Farmers turned their tools into weapons, and children helped build defenses. Entire communities banded together, refusing to be broken. Each person, no matter how small their contribution, became a part of Earth's fight. The Empire, once so certain of its victory, was now desperate. They sent reinforcements from other parts of the galaxy, but even these new forces struggled to match humanity's resilience. The humans had turned the war into a battle of wills, and the Empire was beginning to falter. As the days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the balance of power began to shift. Humanity, once thought to be hopelessly outmatched, was now a force to be reckoned with. The Empire, for all its might, was learning a hard lesson. Technology and power alone could not conquer a people who refused to give up. For every loss humanity suffered, they struck back harder. For every city destroyed, they rebuilt stronger. The Empire, accustomed to quick and decisive victories, found itself trapped in a war it could not win. Earth was no longer just a planet to be conquered. It was a symbol of resistance, a beacon of hope for all who lived under the shadow of the Empire. And as the war raged on, one thing became clear. Humanity was no longer fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. The tide of war was shifting, and with it, the balance of power in the galaxy. The humans, once thought to be helpless in the face of the Empire's might, had proven that they were far from defenseless. Their creativity, unity, and sheer determination had turned them into a formidable force. What had begun as a desperate defense of their home had evolved into an all-out war for freedom. The Empire, though vast and powerful, was beginning to feel the pressure. Its fleet was suffering losses, its soldiers were demoralized, and the very foundation of its empire seemed to be cracking. For the first time in its history, the Empire faced a serious threat. and it could not ignore it. In the Empire's command center, the leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. The war was no longer going according to plan. The Empire's advanced technology had been outmatched by the resourcefulness of humanity. It was clear now that Earth was not just another planet to be conquered. It was a symbol of something much larger. The idea that a small, determined species could stand up to the greatest empire in the galaxy. The Empire's high command was divided. Some generals, still confident in the Empire's superior firepower, called for a full-scale assault on Earth, hoping to crush the resistance once and for all. Others, more cautious, suggested a change in tactics. They had underestimated humanity from the start, and now it seemed that brute force alone would not be enough. The Empire's leaders, however, knew that they could not afford to lose this war. If Earth fell, it could spark rebellions across their empire. The very idea of rebellion was something the Empire could not allow. After much debate, the Empire's command decided on a bold and risky strategy. They would use their most powerful weapon, a secret weapon that had been in development for years. It was a planet-destroying device, capable of obliterating an entire world in an instant. The weapon had never been tested in battle, but the Empire's leaders were desperate. They saw it as the only way to end the war and demonstrate their overwhelming power. The weapon, known as the Exterminator, was a massive space station capable of firing a beam that could vaporize entire cities. The Empire had kept its existence a secret, and now, in their desperation, they were ready to unleash it on Earth. If they couldn't win by force, they would destroy the planet and its people altogether. Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans were preparing for their next move. They had learned of the Empire's plan through intercepted communications, and they knew that the Exterminator was their greatest threat yet. The weapon was unlike anything they had ever faced, and the humans knew they had to act quickly. The very future of their world depended on it. Human leaders met with military commanders, strategists, and scientists. The message was clear. They could not let the Exterminator fire. If the Empire succeeded in using the weapon, Earth would be lost forever. The resistance, which had grown stronger with each passing day, was now preparing for a final decisive battle. It was a gamble, one that could either save their world or end it. The humans knew they couldn't fight the Exterminator head-on. Its power was too great, and the Empire's fleet was still formidable. But there was one thing the Empire had overlooked: Earth's adaptability. Humanity had already demonstrated their ability to surprise their enemies. They had used the Empire's own technology against them, and now they were preparing to do the same with the Exterminator. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, devising a plan to infiltrate the Exterminator. They would need to get inside the massive space station, disable its systems, and prevent it from firing. It would be a suicide mission, but the humans were no strangers to sacrifice. The fate of Earth rested in the hands of a small team of volunteers, led by one of the brightest minds in the Resistance, a scientist named Dr. Sarah Williams. Dr. Williams and her team, composed of soldiers, engineers, and hackers, would be the ones to carry out the plan. Their mission was dangerous and uncertain, but they had no choice. They would have to travel to the Exterminator's location, infiltrate its defenses, and find a way to shut down its power source before it was too late. The Resistance rallied behind them, knowing that the outcome of this mission would determine the future of their world. Earth had already shown the Empire that it was not an easy target. Now the humans would show them that they would fight to the very end, no matter the cost. As Dr. Williams and her team prepared for their mission, a sense of determination filled the air. The humans had come a long way from the first days of the invasion. They had turned the war into a battle of wits, and now they were about to face their greatest challenge yet. But in their hearts, they knew one thing: they would not let the Empire destroy their world. Not now. Not ever. Dr. Sarah Williams and her team stood on the launch pad, their hearts pounding. The Exterminator, the Empire's ultimate weapon, loomed in the distance, a monstrous space station capable of wiping Earth off the map in one devastating shot. Time was running out, and every second counted. Their mission was clear: infiltrate the exterminator, disable its power source, and prevent the weapon from firing. It was a mission few believed could succeed, but humanity's spirit was not easily broken. The team boarded their ships, small but fast, and set course for the massive weapon. As they approached the exterminator, they could see the scale of the space station up close. Its dark, metallic surface stretched across the void like a floating city. Towering gun turrets scanned the area, and the station's defenses shimmered with energy. But Dr. Williams and her team had already prepared for this. They knew the Empire's systems inside and out. They had learned, adapted, and found the weak points. The fight was not over, but the humans had come this far, and they weren't going to stop now. Stay close and stay quiet, Dr. Williams ordered as the team made their approach. They were not here to fight. They were here to sabotage. As they entered the exterminator's docking bay, the team split into two groups. One would infiltrate the control room to disable the weapon's firing systems. The other would locate the power core and shut it down. There was no room for failure. The Empire's soldiers would be on high alert, and one wrong move could mean certain death. The first group made its way to the control room, taking down a few guards with silent, precise movements. Inside, they found the central console. Dr. Williams quickly connected to the system, bypassing security protocols. She was fast, her hands flying over the controls as she worked to override the commands. Sweat trickled down her face as she focused. Every moment spent on this station was another moment closer to the weapon firing, and the pressure was immense. Meanwhile, the second group had reached the power core. They moved quickly, planting explosive charges at key points. The power core was surrounded by a network of defenses, but the humans had the advantage of surprise. They disarmed traps and shut down security systems, all while knowing that every second brought them closer to the inevitable counterattack. They had no time to waste. Back in the control room, Dr. Williams had hacked into the mainframe, but the countdown had already begun. The Empire had activated the exterminator's firing sequence, and it was only a matter of minutes before the weapon fired. With a final keystroke, Dr. Williams accessed the station's master control system and initiated a shutdown. But the system was not going down easily. Alarms blared, warning of a critical failure. The station's defenders scrambled to respond. "Sarah," one of the team members yelled, his voice laced with urgency. "They're coming. We need to move." She didn't need to be told twice. She hit the final command, and the control panel sparked as it powered down. The countdown halted. The exterminator had been temporarily disabled, but there was no time to celebrate. The explosion that had been triggered at the power core was already beginning to take effect. The exterminator shook as the station's systems started to overload. The group had succeeded, but they had no way to escape the station before it collapsed. The mission had worked, but now they were trapped inside. "Head for the escape pods," Dr. Williams shouted. "Go, go, go." The team ran through the corridors of the exterminator, their hearts racing as the station groaned and creaked under the stress of the impending destruction. They fought their way past Empire soldiers, who had started to flood the station in a desperate attempt to stop the humans. Blasts rang out, but the team pushed forward, each step bringing them closer to safety. They didn't look back. They couldn't afford to. At the escape pods, the team was met with another obstacle. The pods were locked, and the countdown on the station's collapse was already in its final moments. With no time to waste, the team used the last of their explosives to blow open the pod doors. They scrambled inside, breathless, as the pod doors sealed shut. As they shot away from the exterminator, the explosion behind them was deafening. The space station, the Empire's ultimate weapon, was destroyed in a fiery burst of light, its massive frame shattered into pieces. Dr. Williams looked back at the debris, the wreckage of what had been the Empire's final hope. The humans had won. Back on Earth, news of the victory spread like wildfire. The exterminator was destroyed, and the Empire's last weapon was gone. The humans had faced impossible odds and overcome them. The message sent across the galaxy was clear. The Empire could no longer intimidate or crush those who fought for their freedom. But the battle was not entirely over. The Empire would not give up easily, and their forces still held some power across the galaxy. However, Earth had shown the Empire, and the entire galaxy, that humanity would never surrender. The human spirit had triumphed, and the fight for freedom had only just begun. As the resistance leaders gathered to plan the next steps, they knew that the war had taken a crucial turn. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. Earth was safe, but the war was far from over. And with every victory, the hope for a free galaxy grew stronger. The humans had warned the Empire. They had given them the chance to run. And now, they had proven that when humanity is pushed, they'd push back, harder than ever before.